Among most of the ancient indigenous cultures of North America, Central America, and South America, the concept of origins and creation were mainly a female affair. To many of these cultures, it seemed demonstrably obvious that birth was the essence of genesis, of beginnings, and birth always happened via the process of pregnancy and subsequent delivery through the birth canal of a woman. It seemed to make sense to those people that the way things came to exist in the universe was as a result of a product of some sort of divine pregnancy. As a result of that fact, the legendary creation narratives of most of those people almost invariably featured a divine female entity from whose body emerged humanity and even all the other elements of creation, such as the sun, the moon, and the stars. It became generally accepted by those people to perceive the earth itself as the embodiment of that female divinity. And since caves were openings on the surface of the body of the earth divinity, then many of those creation narratives were filled with stories of people and things emerging from caves. This was the case in the creation narrative of my own Taino indigenous people, who told the story that our ancestors originally emerged from a sacred cave called Casibahagua at the beginning of time. The ancient indigenous people perceived the process of life as a cycle, and thus what came out of the Earth Mother's cave eventually would return there. The idea of dust to dust was a literal concept in the minds of those ancient people. They accepted the obvious fact that we as humans were made of the very elements that the Earth, our mother, was composed of, and that eventually we were all destined, at the end of the life cycle, to return to that sacred dust at the very bosom of Mother Earth. This prompted many of those cultures to adopt symbolic burial practices that sanctified and glorified the sacred return to the womb of the female divinity. Probably the most profound of those was the custom of burying the departed loved one in an earthenware vessel. My own Taino people on the Caribbean islands oftentimes buried some or all of the remains of the deceased relative in clay pots. In the high Andes mountain nations of South America, the ancestors of the Inca people interred their dead inside huge clay urns known as huacas. The entombment of the dead inside an earthenware vessel brought to a high definition the concept of the return to the womb of an earth matriarch. In the 1950s, a group of indigenous artists, poets, and intellectuals gathered informally at a home in the nation of Ecuador and were inspired by a painting that one of them had created. It showed a semi-abstract representation of a woman in the shape of a large clay pot with an embryonic baby inside her. The painting was called Origin. It not only presented an image of where the human being originates, but by invoking the memory of the traditional ancestral custom of clay urn burial, it suggested where the human being would eventually return, to the gentle maternal embrace of the womb of the earth. Two musicians in the group were inspired by the painting to compose a song that confirmed the message of that piece of art. The song is called Vasija De Barro, Earthenware Vessel.